I'm sure everyone's experienced the elephant in the room analogy to some effect in their everyday reality. Pretty much seeing something that you would imagine everyone or most should see and understand, but is being disregarded or not mentioned at all. And it leaves you more confused, can leave you with self-doubt. I can definitely say that I have gone through that sense perception, still do, many, many times. You have, if I can associate certain memes, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, back when he was in WWE, he had the stare look. That was something kind of, in my own mind, I did kind of just like, what's going on type of energy with that type of stare he used to give. Also, you have Idris Elba. I'll send links in the description. There's a meme where he's in a car, he's looking at people in the front of the car, and he's kind of smirking, and he's just out of disbelief, essentially, given the state of affairs at whatever point in the movie that was for that meme. But that's where I find myself. Anyone listening to this, I'm sure you're, again, in the same scope of things where, again, you see the elephant in the room, and no one really cares about regarding it. It goes back to the mentalities of people. I posted before, one of a prior YouTuber, SQS, he had a video where he went into the breakdown of the 3 different types of minds for human beings. And with that, you can imagine is pretty much like a valency. So there's, one that's more of an animalistic base, the other one more of a psychic base, and then another one for the highest scale on the outer level being the more spiritual base. And essentially with that, it pretty much lets us know why, right? Others, and most rather, do not point out or regard, are unable to be aware of certain situations that we find ourselves in. So I'll post that link as well to that video because it just goes to the mentality of people and pretty much allows us to have understanding to see how things are and I guess to be okay with it to some extent. But it's all different perspectives and scales. So with, again, that concept of the elephant in the room, there's different levels. Someone can look at something like work. I've had my most popular video is the work video because, that's just pretty obvious. That's something most would not want to do. That's just insane. And then you have things like politics. Of course, there's many in that realm of things that can, of course, look to have a run-on sentence, rundown of all the different crap and shit that's going on there. And of course, with religion, all these simple things that we were able to pinpoint and be like, okay, yeah, what's wrong with this? Well, why is this way? So again, there's different levels to this, elephant in the room analogy. Definitely, though, with antinatalism, Efilism, that is of a wider scope to any of the prior stated, because it just goes back to these simple concepts of asking ourselves, why are we creating need for needless sake? Why are we placing deficiency for no reason? It doesn't make sense. So it's pretty much looking like as if that elephant in the room analogy is like our entire world. And again, within our world, there's certain things people do not want to put into the spotlight for whatever reason. But given, again, that analogy, you can also imagine that, that elephant in the room, that room is just being our own personal mind, our own personal awareness. And we all have still some form of an elephant in our own room that we're not regarding. I can speak for myself. This is why I still make videos. And so we should give it attention. Most are in the monkey brain. I myself, we're in this, right? We're in this animal world. You can't get around it, right? We're in this human flesh. What is it called? Bred in circuses. Just a zoo out here. And that's just the plain truth, right? We have been domesticated. We can't even imagine how our true ancestors, from the beginning of times really were to a certain extent, because we're just so far off from that past time. And so that's the hidden in plain sight truth. It's just that we're like, you look at a dog or cat, well, that's a human now to an obvious level in this modern civilization. And so with certain of these things, with work, religion, politics, all these things, it still kind of gets within our, of course, monkey brain, right? And so we still want to, work within those realms because we have to while we're in this circus. But we work within it with a form of delusion in a fantasy land while we're still in physical reality. And so we use things like believing that we can look to do, I guess, better in some scope of things for ourselves and our direct loved ones, looking to say that this is justified because of some, form of a belief. But I believe more so that is just going back to some form of a trauma. No one comes into this world just believing just to believe. This is initially an imposition. First off, coming into the world is an imposition. So in terms of now believing in anything, now you have to ask yourself, why would you want to believe in something? More so, you should look at that as like a utility. Because of course, yes, believing can be, manifested into some form of a reality. But again, that's a utility more than anything. If anything, you want to, again, get in the place of knowing. So with that Gnostic, Gnosis, the three types of mentalities, our monkey brain, that animal, the terraform, that grounded, mentality that we all innately have here, we have to just put it in its proper perspective, right? And so we should have a understanding of that, perspective, understanding of our beliefs and how it came from. And really, ultimately, people really don't believe anything. We can call the bullshit for what it is. It's just something that we really say just for, again, a coping. It's a cope. And that's okay. But again, you should understand your cope. And any actual balanced belief, it shouldn't involve inclusion of an imposition, which will include harm. So if you want to, again, believe something, fine. But if it's going to, again, equate to imposing harm, again, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So it's not when, in the terms of, placing somebody here to go through the process of birth and death, it's not a service like of a good service to make that of a reality for somebody. We'd like to say that, we're bringing service to our children by bringing them here to experience whatever. But really, we're doing that to have them serve us, not, reverse of that with us serving them, because that doesn't make sense, right? We know, of course, our antinatalist, Efilism listening to this is more so for people that are not within that realm of thought already. Prior couple videos, I had a experimentation concept with empathy, and I, again, in the terms of looking to bring attention to the elephant in my own personal mind, I'm trying to use, my own channel to reach people in my own, everyday existence and to see where it goes from there in terms of my everyday reality. So yeah, you have to ask yourself, it doesn't make sense to hold on to a belief instead of just saying that, if you are within that mentality, that's fine. But again, it's a crutch. It's a limiting bondage that you're holding yourself onto. So it's just a very non-preferred situation, dilemma that people are imposing on others. And so, with that, any of our systems, right, with school, like we mentioned before with the politics, our foods, right, whatever types of business we like to do here, our medicine, all these different things are all founded upon still a form of a belief. Because we're dealing with humans, right? So we're going to have to believe that, they're out to do good for all in those different avenues of life that we have here to maintain whatever form of society that we call a society here. We believe that those institutions are going to do good for us, right? Because that's what they're here for, right? But it's clearly not the case. If anything, it's just the worship of an imposition, right? These institutions are already there from the time that we were born. We didn't get a say into having those, places placed. It's just now there, and now it's a dominating force above us. Now that we are now having to go within those avenues while we're here. So it's worship of dominance, it's worship of imposition. And to believe in that concept, which is inherent with this humanity, this civilization game that we're doing, it's very unfortunate because we're just lying to ourselves. We know what the belief, the middle, having lie already in it, lie stretched out, it's not a good situation to, again, keep yourself within. You can use it initially, but you want to eventually get out of that. And it doesn't make sense to hold on to that as a priority above knowing. It's the insanity, as we know, as we should know for people that may not be an antinatalist. But yeah, it's now you're again, it's authority over truth instead of taking truth over authority. Shout out to SQS and all my other teachers that I've shouted out from the past. So it's not a good situation, and it just comes back to a lack of understanding with people. We can have a belief, which is fine, but as prior stated, a belief should not be imposed, because we know with an imposition it's going to include a harm. So with many beliefs that people have, it will include harm. So how is your belief now including a harm, and you're now wanting this? You're saying that something wanted you here, right? Not just is guiding you through this process, but they want you to have to go through the harm of this process down here. It's very sick that is a mentality of people. And I am only trying to make it clear to them that it's a lack of understanding, because no one would want to position themselves in that type of mentality. That's very subordinate, very subordinate. So with concepts, of course, with antinatalism, Efilism, again, for people that come from any type of energy that are not understanding, it's very confusing, very confusing. It's not even like you have to, one of my other prior videos, I think it was antinatalism and ethics. It's not even like you have to agree, but if you understand, then why would you even talk back? So I say this to say, again, if you understand something, move on. Like I mentioned before with the concept with veganism, if you understand the ethics towards that type of spiritual concept for why people would like to not, slaughter animals, then you move on. I still eat meat every now and then, of course. I mean, I grew up with it. It's just ingrained to me at this point. But I understand that moral principle, that ethical whatever, and you move on. I'm not going to comment if somebody comes to my way or whatever and make it seem like they're like emotional or they're not mature. No, they have a good basis. They have clear merit. And from there, you move on. It doesn't mean that you have to now affiliate yourself towards that cause. No. But if you understand their understanding, then, again, there comes with the knowledge. So you kind of, in your own sense, should act a bit differently in accordance to now a new set of ways. But people don't like the implications with such understandings. But again, it should still go with their belief. If they're saying whatever belief they have is of a good merit, then it should be in accordance. All is of a certain order, in alignment. And so people really need to just check themselves. And that's what people like, I'm sure, that are antinatalist, Efilis, we've checked ourselves many times. But we can all, again, do much better for all of us. But it's just very odd. It's just very odd not to just understand. A lot of times when I have this type of conversation with people, they're coming from the angle of just not appreciating the message for what antinatalism is. Again, they don't have to agree. They don't, we can't force them, not to, bear a child. But if they don't understand the concept behind this, then that's the concerning part, right? That's the ignoring of the elephant in the room. We know, again, with birth will come death, and there's much of misfortune in the midst of, those two paradigms. And so we're just, pointing out those unfortunate faults for what it is. And so for people to look to say that that we don't have an understanding or whatever, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. This world that we're in is a duality realm, right? Law of correspondence, as Brother Panicus, any of these teachers have mentioned before. We're going to have the good and evil, but people only want to associate more of the good, and that's great. Who doesn't want more pleasure, this, that, and the fourth in their life? But we have to be real. I mean, like we know of civilization, I think it's going to be next year. The voting is going to be happening in America. I know most of those that are listening are probably here in the United States, and that's always a conversation with family about who you would vote for. But the same thing is that this is all faulty as hell. So if somebody doesn't want to vote at that, bottom, at that part, that really should be the ultimate thing. I can tell you right now, that's going to be my thing. Because that's just, why would you participate in insanity, in dominance over just unfortunately traumatized people? I mean, it's a very unfortunate situation that we're describing. So for us to look to belittle the significance of the harm that's being, institutionalized in such a way, it's just, it's something else. But that's the issue. That's the issue. We have people that are just within a lower mentality. So with that lower mentality, as has been said plenty of times by people, not just myself, who am I, that's of a satanic energy. It's just negative. There's just, get caught up in these words, but it's of a, just again, with negative energy, is grounded upon earth. Mother Earth is that feminine negative principle. So that's not a situation that we should just look to impose on people, given the state of affairs of how things could look to be. I've talked to a lot of people now more so about these types of stuff, and I've had a lot of questions come my way. I've had a prior video with Chris Sedaris, and it was a great talk. Fortunately, the quality of the audio on my end wasn't too great, but Chris, he had a lot of great questions, but I try to make a point where anyone that was listening, that you need to answer those questions for yourself. You can ask those questions because they're great, right? It should lead you to a certain path, but the greatest enemy, the worst enemy, whatever, is yourself, right? So the greatest debate is within your own self. So whatever I have to say, that's a secondary thing. And even then it's just irrelevant. So truly, if you're, becoming wise, you should become less dependent on others, and more dependent on self. So these are just simple concepts. I'm never saying anything new, I feel like, in these videos, but, I just feel compelled to still make some additional commentary because there's just a lot of assumption in life. A lot of mind games that we're all just on the same page, but we're not on the same page. And so it leads me to have to try to be more clear with people and a bit more blunt and a bit more, unfortunately, harsh. I didn't think that it would have to be necessary. I'm sure people listening to this have, tried to help those around them in terms of growing their understanding towards, the principles towards this function of life and the unfortunate harms that's included with it. This is not new. For, I'm sure, many of us. I can say yes. As children, we ask all these questions, right? Why to our parents, and then they just tell us to shut up. But then, growing up, you grow up with friends and stuff, and then you see that, really a lot of them, they're not doing any thinking. So it leaves me like, how is this going on? So it for a long time, it made me just keep a lot of these more visceral forms of thoughts to myself, because I do know that, again, with knowledge, it can be piercing, right? The truth can hurt. But I thought that I said enough truth to people before in my own personal, bubble. But it seems not. And so, again, with the elephant in the room, we should all look to identify and meditate over our own elephant in our own mind, right? And something that we're choosing to ignore and not dispense to others in this, physical reality. And that's what I'm looking to do. That's why, again, I'm making still these videos and sharing them more, again, with people within my proximity, because these are all very simple concepts, but I don't think that most are putting it all together, because I just feel somebody would have put me on by now. I have very smart people in my everyday life, very smart people, and no one seems to care about, these types of thoughts. So again, with the elephant in the room, it just is, it's just creating more confusion for my own self. But I've came to a place now, and I've always been, to a place of knowledge. And it's now to the point where I don't care what comes my way. Because already with any type of language, what we're dealing with, the English language, it's already faulty. It's very flimsy, and twisted and fabricated and bastardized. So whatever anyone looks to say, I already know it's going to be bullshit, right? Because I'm talking in an obvious sense, some bullshit myself. So you should be able to, clean that shit out and just to identify what is faulty is all it is, and being real, right? If you're real with yourself, then you can recognize the real in others, or, when it's not real, point out the fakery and the bullshit in them, because you should be able to realize the bullshit within your own self. So again, it's now placing myself to now be more truthful to people, but again, the truth can hurt. So, I'm interested to see how things become, because a lot of those things have been repressed from my own end. I thought I was only needing to show personally speaking, for a lot of this video here, what was enough that I thought that needed to be, shown to people to understand truth of life. So certain emotions and thoughts were repressed. But I am personally bringing more further out. And it's been great so far. It really has, for my own sake. So again, going from the couple videos from before, with the experimentation with embodying empathy and just trying to be as truthful as possible and frank and honest as possible with people. It's made it's at least it's as if it, this is a show. It's made it more entertaining. So, I'll post my, there was a reading that I had done by, there's a YouTuber, his name is The Peace Dealer. Shout out to him. And, in part, I guess this is why I'm here. It's apparently said that I'm a spiritual teacher, and, how I can't deny that. I can't deny that. So in a clear part, I'm having to just do this to people around me. So I have to be the bearer of, truth, kind of like how we say things like the age of Aquarius. Well, people like me, we have to be that, man, right? With the water, the information now that's going to get dispensed onto the world. And that's what I'm doing. So in these, concepts that we always say, oh, is it the age of Aquarius? Oh, well, okay. Well, what are you doing, right? Do you understand that understanding to that idea? And we say we do, but I myself, again, personally, we can all do more. We can all do more. So that's what I'm doing personally. So, with another concept, we say the New World Order. That I'm already trying to bring a new order in my own life, with looking to embody more of this. So in terms of, families and friends, past friendships, it could, unfortunately make things a bit more difficult in terms of the maintenance of such relationships. But again, the truth needs to be said. We can't have all these lies and flies flying around. The truth needs to stand firm. So that's all I'm doing. And I want to just look to encourage others to do the same. Because it's who knows what the future holds, and in many cases it's not looking good, So just trying to make sure we're not creating unnecessary need for no reason at bottom, more than anything that we can at least look to do for our own selves while we're here. But at bottom, there's just no reason to propagate at all. So personally speaking, I'm sure people, if you're listening, especially at this point, I've always felt pretentious, and I never wanted to show off as if I'm somebody, because I'm not, right? But there was a prior video, I forgot which one, where I posted from Mick Jenkins. He has a song called P's and Q's, and with that song, if you listen to it, it's very hard, but it's putting in the works, right? If you've been on your P's and Q's, you've done the cultivation, you've done the reflection, meditation, introspection, all of those jazzy words, and so from there you have a certain quality, right? And so with that, you shouldn't just embody it with your inner self, right? You have to express it more. And so I thought I did enough personally. But no, it's personally my everyday life for what it is, for those that I'm around. They still do not see eye to eye. It's very unfortunate. If anything, this is like an addendum to the, again, that antinatalism, Efilism, and empathy video, because from what I've currently got my way, very respectful responses to me, sharing a lot of this information to them, even though I really have done it from before. They just don't put the puzzle pieces together, so I had to present it to them in these video formats. But yeah, it can inevitably come off as being pretentious, because you have to make people feel kind of stupid, okay? I feel stupid a lot of times. I feel stupid right now, right? But people get so caught up in that egoic sensation that they don't realize the higher essence and spirit to the message of things. So that's on them, right? The greatest debate, the greatest issue is your own self. So when people ask me questions, this, that, and the fourth, for people in my everyday existence, I look to guide them more, but on the internet, again, with Chris Sideris, Chris, people in the comments are, I told them, no, if you want to hear my answer, no, you're going to have to pay for that, because you should already know the answer. So if you want my answer, yeah, then you should probably pay me. And there was people that were talking about, oh, I don't want to pay for this guy, this, that, and the fourth. Well, yeah, because you don't need to, because I'm saying you should have the answer yourself. So it just goes back to the mentality of people. They're just lost, bewildered as hell. So again, this whole new world order, we've all heard that term, new world order. We had to create that for ourselves. Don't look at no damn government. Okay, you can look at all these concepts and relate it back to yourself. You can create your own new world order in a certain limit, right? Obviously, it's in a clear bondage, but I'm already seeing it for my own life, and it's for the better. It's for the better, and I'm enjoying it even more so than even a week ago. So again, I'm just encouraging people, especially with your loved ones, to definitely make sure you're being as, honorable and truthful, balanced, and fair as you can. And to, I guess, still to, if you're not as piercing of the truth, to maybe pierce them a bit more, because definitely in the current times that we see ourselves in, it's needed. It is needed, and it's for the better. It's for the better. And if you, again, like myself, I'm sure others have been raised from a religious background. You have to hit the text. You have to hit the text to some extent. You don't really, if you have the understanding, of course, but it's only going to further, deprogram and rewind their mentality back to a higher mentality of things here. So it's important. It's important because, again, it goes back to the quality of things with being on your P's and Q's. You want to upkeep a certain quality, and currently the quality of things, of how we see it, it's very low. Very low. And so there's another rapper, of course, we know Kanye West. I think it's from his prior album, The Life of Pablo, from a track Waves. He had a line where he said, sun, it doesn't shine in a cage. The sun doesn't shine in a cage. And I can tell you right now, again, if you want to read my natal chart reading, you will see my energy, right? And myself personally, I've been a introvert, very much so. But however, if I am in a social setting, I'll drop enough. At least I had thought that I dropped enough jewels to people to let them know what's up, with the gist of things here. But it's not the case. It's not the case. Many people are still confused. So I had to shine more of that light, right? And because I'm mostly in a cage in my own mind, or just being by myself in solitude, right? It's fine, but again, I'm looking to dispense more of this to others, and just, again, in a more visceral sense, not necessarily just abstract and more philosophical, even though philosophy, truthfully, is just dealing with your everyday existence and how to, improve and maintain the best standard to your everyday existence. But you have to make it hurt for people with the truth to be, unfortunately, true on that. But yeah, that was a nice line by Kanye. Again, sun don't shine in a cage. We gotta shine out, right? We gotta get out of our comfort zone. He said too, bird don't fly in a cage, right? So we can't limit ourselves. And so that's what I'm doing. Again, I'm encouraging all antinatalists, Efilism. I mean, whether you want to make your own videos, this time the fourth, you got to do something. And it has to be in of a certain presentation, because that's just how humans like it. Just like with all these religions, mythologies, it has to be in a certain format for them to digest it. That's just how this monkey brain works, to be unfortunately said. And it's funny, with, again, going back to Kanye West, every now and then, I don't even know if he still does it, but I've seen it before, where if he's at some type of public event and there's a camera that goes to him, he may be laughing, right? Because he's just in his natural zone. But then once he sees that the camera's on him, he's just blank face. He's just as if he's not even there. He's just completely dead. And as if, like I've said time before, as if there's nothing to celebrate here, because there's not. There's nothing to celebrate here. And so I always found that funny how he did that. And it's weird looking into a lot of these, specifically Chicago rappers. They hold a lot of esotericism in their lyrics, if you know what you're reading. So with anything, right, Kanye West, like people like to say he's crazy and all these things, go ahead. But, we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater with any of that things with religion, right? We should be able to see the good, the profoundness, the truth, right? In people or in concepts to things. So that is what we should all definitely look to do. Again, with the prior video, I made an analogy with the Karen. We can look up on YouTube or TikTok, Karen trying to cause a scene and all that, of course. And, many times, yes, rightfully so. That's crazy. But trying to do with the law of correspondence, duality, and seeing the reverse side, and not just, of course, easily just, not necessarily judging, but, looking at it in the perspective that most people look at it. I'll tell you right now, sometimes, right, complaints need to be said, right? You need to speak to the manager sometimes, right? And that's why people want to question God or question, because we have questions, right? And that's okay. That's good. We shouldn't just ignore such questions that are the elephant in the room to a certain extent. So that's what we should do. That is what we should do. So to say a little bit to end, Black people, they are on the bottom of the totem pole, conventionally speaking, in the social context of our civilization here. So this is why I'm Black myself, so I'm very biased. But this is why I reference Black, teachers in terms of their spirituality and, music artists, because it's shown in their work, how if Black people, again, if they really are on this, that the entire world, who knows? Because a lot of what runs that is the culture and affinity towards, the black persona. So eventually, I don't know when it will happen, but it just goes back to just at least the bottom dollar. And so we go to just simple economics, just how tragic, most livelihoods are here. It's only a matter of time, just like kind of like how it's currently the summer. You put somebody out in the summer for so long, it's just only a matter of time until they're gonna, want to fight and, come up and quote unquote revolt. So I'm interested to see what the future holds. Definitely interested. But no, I don't want to, again, feel like any other ethnic background or what have you is, feeling that they're, pushed away. Anyone is already black. If you're listening to this, in a sense, you should have neuromelanin already. Right? So if you're an antinatalist, you already have a certain neuromelanin makeup that's of a higher accord than most mentalities, most people here. So you already have, again, that melanin in you, right? It doesn't have to be viscerally within your outer skin pigmentation. No, that's dumb. It's a more inner self concept with things. Like I mentioned in a prior video with God being sound being the creator by the way of orgasm, we know how that goes. But more so, that God, without we say things with wisdom is silence. So God is silence. So before we say that, sound is a creator, well, yeah, but truthfully, the creator is unseen, right? Unseen awareness, silence. So that's important. So especially with people in the religious background, again, if you're, trying to tell your loved ones that, it doesn't make sense to believe that you should be in the place of knowing, knowledge, gnosis, and then, you tell them that, you don't have to believe in God because you know of God because you are here. You are, I am. And then they want to say, well, then what is God? Who is God? All this, you can't put a label to it. Back to the prior couple videos I made with human language being a lie. You can't put already, because that's physical matter, right? So that's seen, right? That's material. So already God is not within that limitation, right? So if you're truly wise, if you get those types of questions put your way, you really just have to be silent. Just be silenced, because that's the ultimate way to go for representing such godly attribute. Given that type of specific context, if somebody's trying to have you, pushed in the fucking corner of trying to identify some form of a God. No, God is over any of our type of sense perception. So for us to make a type of category of a word concept, it is so overstepping of our boundaries. So, yeah, I'm gonna also not place the comment section just because it's just no point, kind of with, again, that God concept. Most people, if you're, again, on this point of the video, I appreciate the prior comments and everybody and, the support, but it's just unnecessary in terms of, we'll just, listen to the message for what this video is shown for and move on, so if you have any questions just on the fourth or suggestions or critiques, you can just email me. I have that posted on all of these videos. I want to give a shout out to Josh and Luca. I still have to return back a couple of emails to them, and so I will look to do that. Just wanted to mention it in the video. And for anyone else that may have sent an email and I didn't, mention you there, just send me another email and I'll look to hit back. I definitely appreciate talking to everyone here in the community because it's definitely not large, right? And so, building that connection with people is important. I appreciate you guys and take care.